back through this corridor is where they did all of it was basically a mechanic shed, and they changed the oil, and they weren't probably quite as environmentally sensitive during that period as they are now, and I'd say about 100% of the oil went straight into the ground.
Ooh.
The back quadrant back over in that corner where there's one of the vineyards now was basically a dump, and it was full of radiators, tires, cars, car chassis, batteries. Surprise.
Skeletons.
Just a bunch of stuff. So when Ed and Joey first bought the property, they asked me to come up with a plan, and the plan was first thing was to clean up the property. There were still metal pole barns back here and some other things. I can't remember. My recollection is that we hauled off in the neighborhood of 30, 40-foot dumpsters of junk. And at the same time, we found we were digging out in this area, trying to level and do some things. The amount of oil in the ground was unbelievable. I mean, every time you took a scoop of the skid steer, it felt like it was just gasoline coming
Oh
up.
my gosh.
So we spread a lot of that, worked it in, and then put some of the Medina products onto that. Pretty much over time, and not that long period, took all the petrochemicals out of it, and it was became pretty decent soil.
So you didn't have to remove all of this?
We didn't remove the soil.
Wow.
Wow. We broke it up. It was really hard to compact, almost like a clay, and you get oxygen into it, some of the Medina products, soil activator primarily. That, and then you mix compost in it, aerate it, and turn it over a few times, and it kind of recovered pretty quick, which is good. Back in that area, it was a little bit tougher because we still have been, every once in a while, we'll find a radiator hose or something, work its way up, but it does all right. The first idea was a rose garden here, and it was a rose garden for quite a while. About 500 different roses were planted. They were all Joey Story decided the color combinations, and then there were certain varieties because of the names that we had to have. Those that know Joey will understand that. Very picky in some of these things. Anyway, we had about 500 roses. It did pretty well for a while, but in our full sun, roses are really hard, and a lot of them were hybrid teas. And you can make hybrid teas work here as long as you give them a lot of organic matter, but you do have to spray them a fair amount, and it got to be more than everyone wanted to tend to. So the idea was then to switch it from a rose garden to keep roses, make it more into a cut flower, English style cottage gardens, and that's what we have now. The only tree on the property when the store was purchased, it was a big live oak in the back, which is doing better than it was several years ago, but it's still not real help. It's got some stress issues. But all the other trees have been planted. This one here, I'm guessing we planted maybe 10 years ago. It's pretty recently. It's a Montezuma cypress. It really just took off. Some of the crepe myrtles around, and I've done it. This is one of the prettiest crepe myrtles right there is the one right above the possum hall. And that's a single trunk one. So often the crepe myrtles you see are multi-trunk.
Right.
Single trunk. Essentially, when I order them out of California, a lot of the growers there grow in single trunk. So I guess it's more common. In Texas, pretty much all the growers grow both.
What color does it bloom?
White.
It's white. It's beautiful.
And there's some along the back fence that are kind of the mostly red color. That's kind of it. We've the walkways are zoysias, the grass throughout. Far back corner has black Spanish grapes, and the vineyard up a little bit closer are Blanc de Blanc, white grape. Originally, the property line was, I guess it was right back here at the corner here, and it went straight back. And there's a column out, you can see it, if you walk around, you can see the column out in the middle. That was the column of the property. The property line went there and then went straight over to the other fence over there. The Stories bought this property, which is the old bank building, and the 7-0, we call it, next door. That's a new building, the bank was restored. Anyway, any questions y'all have, let me know. And why don't we just kind of start here. We'll make a circle through part of it and then see if y'all have any questions. I can point out a lot of the plants. This is a plant that I can't really figure out why it's not popular anymore. It's an Althea, type in the hibiscus family. You don't see them very often, and this one doesn't look that great right now with patches, but all summer long it blooms. It's a really
Jonathan,
good
I don't
plant.
think they're long-lived. I lost a whole hedge of them. I just don't think they live that long.
They probably live 10 years.
Well, yeah, 10, but 10's not very long.
It's all relative to us. Compared to us.
Compared to us.
We don't
But-
want to plant it but once.
But they're still, I mean, I look at, that's one of the things that I try to explain to people is in general that in your landscape, there's very few, other than your trees, most plants, you're looking about
They have a
5 to 10
lifespan.
year life, and revamping on a pretty regular basis. There's certain things like the yopon, they'll stay forever, boxwood will stay forever. It's kind of anchor plants. But most of the flowering plants and all that, they will get either leggy or trunks too big and things like that. Point out a few of the ones things that are blooming now. Of course, Turk's cat back there, I think most people are familiar with. It's supposed to be deer resistant. I planted it on a project right now we're working on in Sisterdale. Definitely not to Sisterdale deer. They mow it down continually. The Thrialis is one of the best deer-proof plants there are. I have never had a deer eat the Thrialis. A number of different jobs we've had. A little bit late bloomer, but they're this time of year, and usually start in August. They will freeze back, but they'll come back every year. What else? Great pictures around here. These different salvias. They have so many different names now of all the different hybrid varieties. These are not going to make it through the winter. These are all annuals. We had a bunch of them here, and we just have a few that have survived, but this is one of my favorite plants. It's a Fanix phlox, created by John Fanix, who has a nursery in San Antonio. Really a good plant. Will come back. Normally, we may have some in other areas, but it'll get this tall and it blooms for months and months. Deer do like it though, so it's certainly not deer resistant.
Do you cover all this?
There's no deer in here.
No, I mean for the winter.
Oh no, it is.
Really? Everything makes it through the winter.
Yeah, it'll just come back.
Wow.
Now it needs to be mulched. I can't emphasize enough how important mulching is to your gardens. Adding organic matter back to it. Our soils just seem to zap the organic matter out of it, and without the organic matter, the plants are going to start getting leggy and chlorosis.
Now, will you remove all of this mulch and put new in?
Just keep adding on top.
And on top.
And
Okay.
What about that white
That's the
mildew
joy
that
of mulch.
grows
Yeah.
under the mulch? At my house, at least.
What?
There's white mildew in my
yeah.
mulch.
I would probably just break it up a little bit. I mean, it's not going to hurt anything.
Okay.
Columbine is a good plant, but it takes quite a bit of shade. Dianthus. What is plant? It's a type of a salvia that's like very close to a salvia gregae, but it's a blue flower, and the actual name of it now escapes me. But it's interesting because it looks like a gregae, but it's not. It's a slightly different.
What's this grass?
Zoysia.
Zoysia.
Palisade zoysia. Here, we have pretty good success with dahlia. Great plant to bloom, but they cannot take our full sun. These have, it'll bloom most of August. They have to be planted by bulbs every spring. Some of them, these have made it years, but a lot of times they won't make it through our winters. The soil gets too moist and they'll rot. We put this in. This little segment was added this year, so it really hasn't grown a whole lot yet. These are the Cleome, pretty good plant. Deer usually don't eat them.
Cleome?
CLEOME, I think. Of course, grasses are all. These are different maiden grasses. Several different varieties. This is probably Yakuhima is a variety of it. But they get, it's such a good thing to put because they're kind of an anchor in the middle, take up space, and they're pretty most of the year.
Do you mow that down in the winter?
Trim it.
Trim
cut
it?
back.
Yeah, trim it back.
I found that with a lot of the grasses, if you cut them back too much, you're going to shorten the life of them. You can trim them some, but don't go real
Down
far
to the ground. Yeah.
They come back a little bit sparse every year. The 3 magnolias we have, there's one over here, one back here, and then one right behind me. Those are all little gem. The flowers are about the same size as a regular southern magnolia, but they're a little bit more tolerant to our soils.
Are they the same age? Were they planted at the same time?
No. This one's the oldest, then that one. Actually, that one was bigger. And that one was just planted this year. Those are 30 gallons that was planted. And then back there, in the far corner, there's Esperanzas. They've come out with a lot of different colors there that are really nice. The traditional yellow.
Orange.
Star goes by the orange one. And they also have a kind of a sunrise color, kind of orange, yellow. All very prolific. Got to be careful. Some of them get really, really big.
Is this all mulch or is this dirt with mulch on it? Or is
It's dirt with mulch on top, but it's gotten mixed in over time. We'll go in and every year we'll probably add 20, 30 new plants, where there's little holes or just upgrade a little bit. Firecracker bush, Amelia family. It's a good one. To help with the grade, and we did this on a lot of our landscape projects. It's a boulder wall on the other side, but to help level things out a little bit, we did it here because there was a pretty good slope. There was a big fill right here. This slope kind of continually down, and we didn't really want that much of a slope, so we put the boulders in and terrace.
Gave you somewhere else to put plants.
Right, more place to put plants.
This corrects.
Greg's Miss, I think everyone's familiar with, and it's, my experience has been that you cannot take our full sun. It really needs a little bit of shade. It's pretty interesting when you plant it up next to something like a rose, it will climb up through it. It doesn't really climb, but it's reaching for the sun. So it has this time of year, especially the butterflies, great plant. And then the grasses, like we have some roses, like that rose probably needs to come out. It's gotten too leggy.
Why does it need to come out?
I suspect if we got one back in there, it's coming from the rootstock. A lot of it's, most of them are grafted.
Yeah.
It's coming. I'm not sure on that one, but it just looks like this is the way it's growing right now. These are the phlox right here also. There's not that many blooms left. There's a few in here. For the John Panic phlox, which is good. Gulf Muley, one of the better grasses, does very well. And then Linheimer's Muley. We plant, this is our landscape project, a lot of the salvia carnacea or mealy blue. We do it a lot because it will kind of grow in amongst other plants pretty well. So you kind of have things. I like the look of one flower coming through another bush. So it kind of makes a little bit of interest to it. The flame acanthus, deer resistant almost always.
They ate them at my house.
Really?
Yeah.
You must have hungry
You're in
deer.
Comanche Trace.
Yeah,
That's the
they
problem.
The deer eat everything at my
Yeah.
house.
A lot of the problem in Comanche Trace and other places is exotics. Exotics are far worse than whitetail. They eat absolutely everything.
they hang around?
Yeah, they hang around.
Yeah. I
Uh,
still think of
One of the things let's walk around quickly. These are various roses. But they've come out with a new crepe myrtle on the show, a new variety, and several different growers are doing that. Be careful, twist an ankle walking by. But they have a new one that comes out with basically black leaves.
Really?
They say that way. So it adds a little bit of different color. This is called
So it's
ebony.
supposed to be black.
Yeah.
It's not dying.
No, that's the color of it.
I got fungus.
Nope, not much.
It's a good accent to the library.
And this one has a dark red flower. There's a flower on it. It's not over for the season. But they have them with the coral, pink. There's several different varieties now. Different green leaf is where this one comes from. But it's just a nice different accent to put into a garden. And it's like mostly crepe myrtles. I mean, they may get a little bit of fungus, but not much. They're pretty good about it.
The plant there
The rose?
with the balls,
Yeah, those are the rose hips.
rose hips. Okay.
They make jelly out of.
The jelly, heavy in vitamin C. Over here in the shade, this is the back of Savino. This is a new building, but they made it match various other kind of styles and stuff.
Isn't that beautiful?
What is the function of it?
It's Mr. Story's office. We use Amdro or Extinguish, they're all pretty much the same. We do that on every other month with that app. And then if you do have to get a bed, put a little, I like acephate, it'll kill them quicker. You can get them under control. The key with them, it's hard to remember because you don't see them. When it's real dry like right now, they're still there.
Absolutely.
I have not seen anything alive, anything crawling around, but I've seen,
Yeah.
you know, the signs. Yes.
Do the fall after, beautiful everywhere right now.
And you don't cover them. See, I have them, but they freeze. So I don't have enough mulch on them.
Yeah, put more mulch.
Okay. I love those.
Fall aster. The bees love these. I mean, just,
How about the
And
deer?
deer normally don't touch them.
Really?
and deer don't touch them.
Fall after. He just called me quiet. Hello. Yeah. Okay. We can get one load. I'm probably just going to take one load and fill them into the head. And in shade, it's a real good plant. Deer do eat it though. Most ferns they don't, but I've had to wipe them out a couple of times. So at your own risk with that. This is probably not the best location. It's really one of my favorite plants, but it gets too much sun right here. It's an oak leaf hydrangea.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the big bushy one. It's part of it's this time of year. It will bloom, but it gets. My hope was this was going to get a little bit fuller, but it's grown so fast it keeps breaking off, and it doesn't have enough shade. So it's not the ideal location for an oak leaf hydrangea, but they're really good plants if they just get a little bit of morning sun, not much in the afternoon, and they bloom beautiful. And they do really well in our soil.
What is this?
It is a Catalpa, which is it's a hybrid between a Catalpa and a desert willow.
Oh, okay.
They grow fast, but if you give them too much irrigation, they grow too fast. And then back over there with the big leaves, it's a acanthus. Left with the other acanthus over here. That's the flame acanthus. This is a acanthus, I can't remember the name, obviously very different families. It's cannot take our full sun, it'll burn the leaves. It will come back every year. I'd say every year for about 3, 4, 5 years. I haven't had one last over 5, I don't think. They do put out in the spring a very tall, kind of purplish white spike, which will be with kind of weird flowers on it. But it's a good plant. And like I said, it goes in that category of other plants that you get 3 years out of it, you should be pretty happy. A lot of plants you almost have to look at that way.
That looks like something that would like water. Is it?
It does. It's not gonna. It doesn't have to get a ton of water, but it cannot be dry. It's certainly not as zero. Here's another Eve that can be put in the pot.
Did you say what this is?
Greg's mist.
Greg?
Greg. GREGGS mist flower. It's an epitorium.
The bees and the butterflies like it.
It's a great pollinator. Most of them live between, late summer, early fall.
Jonathan, is this a Japanese maple?
Yes, it is, and it's a.
Do they make it in Texas, or
Yeah.
they do?
They struggle the first few years. That afternoon sun is another thing. I was thinking that we had enough shade here, but it still there's enough direct sun
Yeah,
by the afternoon that it gets
yeah.
nailed on the side. And the heat will make them look a little bit spindly this time of year. But in the spring, they're beautiful.
Oh yeah.
I didn't, was not a real firm believer that Japanese maples would make it here, but I was out on a property out near Hunt where we did some work out there. We didn't do the original landscaping, and they had probably 20 Japanese maples scattered in, understory, but not real big shade, and they were some up to 20, 30 feet tall. They were beautiful.
Wow.
And most of those was bloodgood, but we've had more success with bloodgood than most of the others. With the red leaf, there's coral bark, and there's some others.
Aren't there female and male trees?
That I'm not sure. I've never had. Actually, most of it I see seeds form, but I've never had. But they're, this time of year, there's a little bit pushing it for them. This one is real hot and dry. But